Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our June California Brokers Business Accelerator on mid-year goal-setting strategies to finish the year strong, hosted by our LA and Bay Area broker, Omar Helmand, but also featuring a panel of all our California brokers, Tom Bullock, Jeff Green, Mary Jane Morris, and Stephen Rowe. Before we begin, I want to remind you all of a tool we have here at Allison James. It's our agent referral map. By going to AJI University and clicking on the referrals tab down here at the bottom, you will find our agent referral map, which was created for you to find other Allison James agents out of your area who you can refer clients to. By using the search bar, you can search for any specific area. It will bring up all the agents in that area. You can also zoom into certain areas on the map and see which agents are near there. Keep in mind that this is an opt-in only. The only information on this map is your name, your street name, city, phone number, and email address. If you have not opted in and you would like to, please go ahead and email us at support@ajicorporate.com. With that being said, I would now like to pass it over to our wonderful brokers, starting with Omar. Good morning, Omar.
Good morning, Tori. Thank you for putting this presentation together and allowing us to speak to our agents throughout the state. One of the things that have recently come up with it almost being halfway, we're pretty much at the midway point of 2018. Time has obviously passed by very quickly, and we are now heading into the second half of 2018. So we want to remind everybody on how to make sure that, number one, they can revisit what they've done in the first half of the year, and number two, what they can do to make sure their business is moving forward in the right direction and finishing strong in 2018. Some of the strategies that we're going to kind of go over are maybe already very familiar to you, but more importantly, they're going to be good reminders in order for you to set good foundations for the next 6 months and obviously beyond. A lot of the times agents may even start in the last part of a year to propel themselves to do really well the following year. So this strategy or this platform for you to be able to implement some things now are just going to be able to help you going forward. And it's never too late. Just always remember that, because that's every day, there's an opportunity. And so that's what we're going to remind you of. And even if you're not on track, or maybe you're doing exceptionally well this year, this is just going to be a good reminder for you to be able to reset and then retool. If you are not on track, don't be down on yourself, because only about 46% of people really make it to their goals or even are close to their goals through the first 6 months of the year. If you are in that 46 percentile and you have done an exceptional job, obviously round of applause to you, but what are you going to do going forward to hold yourself to that same standard going forward? And some of those questions that we're going to ask are obviously going to be part of that process. But if you have not, and you are part of the latter percentage of agents that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing or have not met your goals for whatever reason that may be, we have some ideas for you to help you get you back on track and finish strong. One of the things that I'll start with is you want to go back to your 2018 goals that you set out last year. So in the end of 2017, you want to sit down and take a thorough look at what you set out at. Maybe some agents started putting their notes together in November of 2017 or December of 2017. So what they're going to do for 2018 and what you were going to do to implement those goals and to achieve those goals. So what was the initial goal? Let's revisit that. That's the first step. And obviously, through that process of discovery, you're going to find what you did in that first 6 months from January till now to lead you to where you are right now, whether you've achieved your goals or you haven't. So I'm going to assume that, for the people that are listening, are maybe you haven't met those goals, and that's probably why you're on the broadcast, to get new, fresh ideas. But the most important part is to review what you've done and what maybe you haven't done. Those are the most important details. You can't fix what you don't know is broken. So obviously, that's the first step. And if you are on track, what did you do to make sure that you are on track? Did you review your goals every single day? Did you review your goals every single week? How big were your goals? Were they easily attainable goals, or were they goals that were very, very large goals that you challenged yourself and you made it so that they were not easily attainable? Some of the, a lot of the times we just simply make goals that are too small, in my opinion. And so having a bigger mindset of what your goal should be for the year, the first challenge is setting a goal that's not easily attainable, to challenge yourself every single year. Now, if you're in your comfort zone and you have maybe a smaller number of transactions that you'd like to do every year, that to me is a personal preference. But in our business, the opportunity is amazing, especially right now with where the market is throughout the state of California. You have an opportunity to do an exponential number of transactions. And given the platform that you are allowed with AJI, there's no limit. And for somebody to set a small goal, in my opinion, it's not beneficial to you. And having very high standards to your goals, I think that really will help you, obviously, throughout the year and going forward. Do you have, I think this is probably one of the most important questions I'm going to ask, is when in your review process, did you have anybody actually holding you accountable to your goals? Now, what do I mean by that? Are you working with other agents to review your numbers on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or are you simply just kind of keeping them in your head and using that data to figure out where you are throughout the year? If you have an accountability partner or multiple accountability partners, what that does to you is it makes you do your job. And if you don't do your job, you're not only letting yourself down, but you're letting the group down. And nobody likes to let anybody down. So when you have the accountability partners in place, people that are also going to be held accountable by you, that changes the structure of how your goals are going to be completed. Are they again, small goals or large goals? It all come down to your personal preference, but ultimately the accountability partner will make sure that you are striving towards those goals. So our other brokers are on the call now. If you guys would like to chime in on some of these questions that I have, if you want to throw out some additional questions that our agents can ask themselves, I think what I've done is just kind of made sure that we are clear on what the basis of our conversation will be going forward here for the next couple of maybe a half hour or so. What would you tell the agents in your area, or just agents throughout the state in general, to do in their day-to-day to make sure that they're setting their goals properly? Or if they haven't set their goals properly, what would you say would be a really good idea to help them challenge themselves to finish strong? And then obviously we'll go into some of the simple fixes here after we have that conversation. Do any of the other agents and the other brokers have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was thinking, one of the thoughts that I've had on these is that a lot of times agents have goals, but they don't attach a plan with the goal on how to achieve it. So the goals end up being just wishful thinking, and if they make it, wonderful, but they don't actually have a plan on how they're going to make that. So one of the things I would encourage is with every goal, there needs to be an action plan attached to make it realistic that you can actually achieve that goal.
Yeah, that's Steve is our Sacramento broker. Thank you for chiming in, Steve, and absolutely agree with you 100%. Tracking your numbers and having a plan on a daily basis. We've talked about this numerous times on our other webinars. Writing down your daily schedule, that's part of having a plan. Understanding what you're going to be doing day to day, that's part of having a plan. What will your week look like? What will your month look like? What will your 6-month goal or quarterly goal look like? And then what will your yearly goal look like? All of these details within the goals are, as Steve mentioned, your plan to achieve those goals. And that's ultimately going to be your foundation to being able to get to the numbers that you want to get to, outside of having an accountability partner, outside of reviewing them on a constant daily, weekly basis. Part of this strategy is to ensure that your goals are attainable. And again, that all comes down to a personal preference of how big your goals are. Anybody else would you guys like to chime in? All other brokers? Mary Jane?
Yeah, I was gonna throw just this 2 cents worth in. And I think Steve started to cover it. If your goals don't have a calendar and a budget attached, they're very hard to accomplish, because you don't even know that you missed that goal, and you don't know how you're paying for things. You haven't worked out who's got the best printing, or who's got the best whatever you're going to need to get those things done. For instance, I order a Christmas gift for my agents every year, or a holiday thing, and I've just finished ordering that for this year. So because I don't want that expense in December. So I think it's just very important that if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening, and you also need a budget to go with it.
Absolutely. All very, very good points, and helping us, again, setting the plan to achieve the goal. So, Tom, Jeff, would you guys like to chime in?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I'd like to just kind of throw in, to go along with what both Steve as well as MJ stated. Now's a good time, now that we're in the mid-year, to do a stop, start, continue type review of your business plan. You need to stop doing whatever's not effective. So whatever you're putting your money into, whatever activity you're doing that's not getting the results you had hoped that it would get, now's the time to stop it. Start. If along the way between January and now you have any new thoughts, new ideas, new concepts that might have come your way, now's a good time to, now that you're stopping the bad activity, start new activities that might supplement that and hopefully will be more effective. And then continue doing what you're doing that's getting the best results. Don't just hope that it all works out. Pay attention to your business plan and your activity levels and your marketing to make sure what you're doing is being effective and helping you achieve whatever goals you have set for yourself.
Very well put, Tom. I couldn't agree more. Some of the things that I'll add to what you just said are, if you're very successful in, let's assume you have 5 or 6 different lead generation ideas, and you know that 1 or 2 of them are just lacking, and you're not putting the same amount of effort, or you're not getting the same results from those lead generation ideas as you are, let's say, of the other 3 or 4 that you have, and they're doing really well. Focus on the 3 or 4 that are doing really well for you, and maybe put more effort into those items, and obviously revisit the ones that are not working and see what you can do better. But initially, to be able to be productive and finish your year strong, focus on the ones that are giving you the best results, and the results are obviously in the numbers. And if you are tracking your numbers and you know exactly where your business is coming from and how you've gotten to your mid-year goal, or you haven't, what can you do to continue forward and add more to your budget in those specific areas, or your efforts in those areas that are being successful? So that's a great point. Jeff?
Yeah, these are all great points. I wanted to just throw in the concept here of what happens when you have a production meltdown. And a lot of agents go through it and they don't know what to do about it. I've gone through it. I've watched a lot of agents go through it. I've had a lot of them where they've come to me and I've been able to assist them. And what a production meltdown is you've got all these goals, you've made your analysis, but what happens to your mindset? What happens to a lot of folks is when maybe they've gone through the first part of the summer season, and here's a good example. They get a lot of escrows going or a lot of buyer transactions and they're running around. They stop prospecting. Next thing they know, they've got a gap, a huge gap, an income gap. They've also got a closing gap. And so what this does to many people is it causes so much frustration that there's somewhat of a meltdown. I call it a production meltdown. You just go, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And the first thing that usually happens is you feel guilty. Man, I should have done something differently. And the guilt settles in. And the next thing is like this downward slide. You get into task aversion where you start hating what you're doing. Once in a while, you run into a lot of agents. They say, "Oh, I hate real estate right now," and you say, "Well, why?" And it's usually because of these things. Things aren't working. So then the next step is you start getting into this paralysis of analysis, and this is where people get off track. They get out of their business planning, what they said already that was already working, and they start looking around at every possible way to do stuff that's experimental, and they start experimenting. And then the final position is getting into this thing where you're always behind, feeling like you can never catch up. And this is a really horrible, horrible place to be if you've ever been there. I can tell you honestly, I've been there. When I was a newer agent, I found a few successes and rolled the throttle back, and next thing I knew, I had neglected prospecting or some other aspect of my business, and then I collapsed. And this is what this whole session is today all about, is staying on track. But what happens when you're under the crushing burden of guilt or disappointment, and it just seems like you can't get up in the morning? Some people I've seen agents who can't even get out of bed. They oversleep, they miss appointments, and they get really, because selling's a very emotional business. I'm trying to be really real and personal about it. If you find yourself falling into that kind of a mindset slump, you need to immediately reach out for a lifeline. It's like you've fallen off the ship and you're out there bobbing up and down in the waves. You need to get somebody outside of the situation. Your broker is a good person for that, or somebody that maybe you have an accountability partner that or even if that might be a time to start enrolling in coaching. A lot of agents think about coaching when they're making a lot of money, but the time you really want to get coaching is when you've stumbled and you're wavering, and a good coach or your broker or an accountability partner can help put you back on track. And the final thing I'd say about that is, anytime you're going through this process, you can hit the reset button. You can reassess your goals. If you miss 3 months of production or 2 months, pick up where you left off and keep going, because it's not where you've been, it's where you're going that matters. And I think that if you apply the stuff that Omar's been sharing today, you can turn the ship around. And I know that I'm talking to at least a couple of people on this webinar right now that are feeling that they need to do a reset, do a 180, and it can be done. Don't be discouraged. Just know that there are people here to help you. You're not alone, and don't feel that way, and just reach out for help.
Those are some really good points, Jeff, given the fact that a lot of our agents are virtual. They are, and every agent essentially is self-employed. They are on their own. So you have probably gotten, touched some personal points there, and how the production level on a day-to-day basis would look if agents were maybe not meeting their goals for the year, or the goals that they set out at the beginning of the year. Obviously having that motivation and that drive every day is extremely important. Knowing exactly what you're going to do is extremely important. Setting that schedule, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, having that schedule every day, waking up, knowing exactly what you're going to do, will create a different mindset. I implemented it in my business a few years ago, and this changed everything for me. I would fly by the seat of my pants and write some notes down here and there and so forth, but having a A specific schedule and knowing what to do at what time of the day will change everything for you if you just implement it. So I'm going to jump right into some 5 simple fixes to get you back on track for 2018 and beyond. The first, and in my opinion, outside of what we've been talking about with schedule, writing, having a plan, I think the first and most important detail of your 2018 goal setting session for the remainder of the year should be to get an accountability partner. I think if you can get somebody on board that will have the same vision as you do, has the same or similar goals as you do to succeed, and putting a plan together for the both of you to be able to touch base every few days or every day to say, this is what we're doing today, this is my schedule, these are how many people I'm going to talk to, and so forth and so on. I think it's probably the most important aspect of your business to be able to stay successful for the remainder of 2018. That is the number one goal. And even if you don't have, if you have one, maybe you can get 2 or 3 different people so you can bounce ideas off of each other, and also hold multiple people accountable. They'll actually, the whole group will benefit. So that's my first note to take with you going forward. Number 2, write down, after reassessing what you've done in 2018 so far for the first 6 months, write down your plan and your goals and clearly identify what you are going to do for the remainder of 2018. So writing it down, a simple task. A lot of us don't do that, but a simple task like writing it down and explaining to yourself step by step how you're going to approach getting to your goal and if it's attainable or not, readjusting your goal if you have to, but making sure that you write it down and being very clear and concise on how you're going to get there. If you need help with it, you have accountability partners. If you need help with it, call your broker, call any of the brokers that are on the panel today. All of us are here to help. Number 3, fix your schedule to focus your goals, to focus on your goals. Obviously, if you don't have a daily schedule that you're following, the schedule that you're going to create for the next 6 months, obviously keeping in mind holidays are coming up, keeping in mind if you have kids, school's going to start soon, keeping all these things in mind. How many days out of the year remaining for the remaining part of 2018, how many days are you going to work? If there's 365 days in a year, assume that we're halfway through that. Do the numbers. How many days are you going to work for the remaining part of the year? And during that time that you are working, what are you going to do? And create that schedule. Whether it's 100 remaining days that you're going to work and just focus your efforts, then do that and just be very clear. Another, I think, very, very important point into what your goal setting strategy should be to kind of revisit everything that you're doing. Revisit your why. Your why, if you don't know what that means, revisit your why. And in sales, this is very, very important. Why are you in sales? Why did you set the goals that you set? Why are you so driven to do what you want to do, or not driven to do what your goals have been set out to do? Now, your why is everything that kind of drives you, essentially. So is it your family? Is it a financial goal? Is it getting out of debt? Is it buying a new home? What is it? What is it that you really want to do? And that's something you should revisit. Your why is very important in this entire process. And as Jeff Green had mentioned, point number 5, consider hiring a professional coach, or be around other top producing agents. And I'm sure we've all heard this because we're in sales, you're the average of the 5 people you're around. Increase your average. It's pretty simple. Be around people who are producing. Be around people who are doing more than you, not less than you. And if you are around a set of people or a coach that can guide you in the right direction, or tell you what to do in your business or kind of give you the guidance in what to do in your business, you will see a change in your business immediately. I'm not a proponent of, obviously, giving some kind of credit to anybody, but in my opinion, the best coach out there today is Tom Ferry. If you decide that you want to get into coaching, consider somebody like Tom Ferry. He is by far the best coach in my opinion. There's no promotion here or anything. I'm not getting any advertisement dollars from him, but just trust me on my goal and my setting of my goals and what I've been able to do with my business. His coaching system has helped me tremendously, and he's helped a lot of other agents that I know tremendously. So that's somebody you can consider. But if that's not available to you and you don't maybe want to get into coaching, then get around some agents that are doing a lot more than you. And that's obviously, again, part of accountability, because if you're around top producing agents that are doing really well, they're going to hold you accountable to a certain standard to be a part of their group, and that's only going to elevate you. Brokers, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I've got just a few thoughts that I think kind of helping with agents. Again, this is Steve up in the Sacramento area. We've kind of touched on this, but I think one of the things that agents struggle with is just trying to figure out the right size for their goals. And the challenge needs to be that they need to be big enough to stretch you, but not so big that they're not reachable, because then you just get discouraged and you don't even get close to them. But I think we've talked about those who aren't making their goals and how to get on track. I think we also need to challenge those who are meeting their goals. If you've got to 6-month point and you've met all of your goals, it's time to raise the bar and shoot for something higher for the second half, and have a plan to be able to continue your momentum. But the other caution I'd have in all of this is make sure you're always scheduling into that plan and into that time for yourself, time for your family, time for your friends, because you don't want to be so obsessed with reaching your production goals that you forget that you need a life as well.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's right along the lines of how many days of the remaining part of the year are you going to work-life balance. If you haven't met your goals, maybe you have to add some days and work a little harder. If you have met your goals and maybe you want to achieve more, as Steve had said, and grow your goals to a higher standard, maybe you have to add some hours, but don't forget that you do have other priorities. And so that's part of your why. Explain to yourself and write down exactly what your why is and remind yourself of that. If it's your family, if it's your kids, whatever it is, don't forget that as you're working. But the hours that you are working, focus on the actual plan and the goal. Brokers, and any of the brokers like to chime in? Great. So I think Tori, we've covered this thoroughly. I think we've set out a basic plan for our agents to be able to finish the year strong in 2018. My hope is that we record this and allow people to re-listen to it. I think there's a lot of very, very good information from our brokers and how to be able to continue forward in being successful, not just in 2018 and beyond, but obviously ultimately in your business on a day-to-day.
Hey, Omar?
Yeah.
Just completely on another note, while I've got the attention of the entire state, by the end of the year, our biannual ethics class is required. If you took it with your continuing education during the exact window that they require, which is 2017 or 18, you may be in possession of the certificate that your board will need, or they will not let you re-sign up at the end of the year. When you pay your dues, they're not going to activate your MLS without that ethics. It is a 2.5-hour class. I will provide the link for the free class, the free online class, to your brokers who shoot it out through Salesforce. We decided this morning, but I wanted to make sure you understood that you do have an ethics class due in this 2 years, and if you are not, if you have not done that yet, you will definitely need to do that before the end of the year. So while you're planning your goals, please make sure you have ethics. We're going to beat on this a little bit toward the end so that we don't go into the holidays with everybody still needing to take it. So I know it seems early, but to get scheduled in a 2.5 hour window to sit down and take a class, we want to make sure that you're aware of it. Thank you, Omar, for letting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for reminding everybody. Obviously, it's very important to stay compliant. That's something that we all must do. And thank you for adding that to your 2018 remaining year goal setting process. So I think we're all set, Tori. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak on the subject. And if anybody has any questions or needs any assistance about setting your goals, about talking and maybe figuring out how you can add some accountability partners or anything related to finishing your year strong, feel free to reach out to any of the brokers on this panel, and we're happy to help.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us on another California Brokers Business Accelerator. Thank you to all of our California brokers, Tom, Jeff, Mary Jane, and Steve, for all of your wonderful insight, as always. And a special thank you to Omar for putting together such a great presentation. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and don't forget to join us next month. We will be talking about lease options, hosted by our Temecula broker, Mary Jane. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful rest of your month, and we will see you next month. Bye, everyone.